Welcome back, guys. I'm Jake ELLENBOGEN. Today I'm going to be talking about a player that I think if the Rams do make a trade, and that's a big if at the trade deadline, I think they're going to acquire this player. That player I'm talking about is Devin Lloyd of the Jacksonville Jaguars, a linebacker who's losing snaps. We're going to get into it. Before we dive into it, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Be sure to follow me on all social media at JKBogan, including Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Kick. And in addition to that, just want to let you guys know that today's sponsor is BetUS, and you can get a 150% bonus match on your first deposit using code YouTube150. In addition to that, you can get the next two deposits 125% bonus match when using that same code YouTube150. So be sure to check out BetUS for all your sports betting needs. And as always, be sure to bet responsibly. All right, so when it comes to this topic, this is actually something that's been on my mind. People have asked me, who do you want to see? Who do you want to trade for? And there was a lot of people saying Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And while I think, he definitely would help, he is dreadful at tackling. He is not a great tackling linebacker. He'd be fantastic, in coverage. Whereas Devin Lloyd is dreadful in coverage, and he's a fantastic run supportive linebacker. Great tackler, does all that. So looking at Devin Lloyd, this is the guy that I think will end up being a Ram if they make a trade. And the reason I think that, first off, the Rams have made plenty of trades in the past. During the trade deadline, you have Dante Fowler Jr., you have Von Miller, you got trading away Marcus Peters and getting Jalen Ramsey, Austin Corbett. There have been so many trades at the deadline that the Rams have had in the Sean McVay era, no doubt. So I do think that is still on the table. They're being kind of mum's the word on this because I think they really need to win this game against Seattle before they make a decision. And I think this is a team that does not want to get into, some sort of, situation where you fall in love with a player, you let another team know how much you love that player, and then you end up giving up maybe more than you want to give up. I think the Rams want to play this close to the vest up until the bell, and I think that's when maybe they will strike. So right now, the Rams, if they got Devin Lloyd, would be getting one of the best defensive linebackers in the league. And I say, best run defensive, and I say that because this is a guy that's in the top 10 and that great according to PFF. Has only missed one tackle this year. He's just really technically sound as a tackler. He's a good athlete. He's not an elite athlete. He ran a 4.6, so it's not like he's flying all over the field running a 4.3, but I think he plays faster than that time. He's an explosive player, very explosive, absolutely killed the broad jump in the 90th percentile, I believe. So this is definitely a guy that can help you out. Now, the reason I'm mentioning him is, one, the Jacksonville Jaguars. The reason why it took so long to mention him is because the Jacksonville Jaguars were kind of interesting, right? Wasn't sure where they were going to be. They're 2-6 now. I don't care how close that game was to the Packers. I really don't. They lost Christian Kirk for the year. This is not their year, and that is what it is. But Devin Lloyd is probably, if they are smart, going to get traded. He's getting outsnapped now by Ventrell Miller and Foye Oluokun. And when you look at Oluokun, this is a guy who has been really, he was their big prize signing in free agency, the former Falcon. He's just a tackling machine, absolute machine. And so when he gets hurt, Ventrell Miller gets a chance to play a little bit more. And they really liked what they saw, so much so Lloyd is kind of started to lose snaps. But he's still one of the best tackling linebackers. He's not great in coverage, and I'm understanding of that. But to lose snaps like that, this is a starting player, no doubt about it. I think he's a very good player. And if the Rams got him, they'd be fully replacing Ernest Jones with this guy. This would be a huge pickup. This would be a blockbuster move, in my opinion, if they were to go out and get a Devin Lloyd for their defense. Make no mistake about it. But the feeling isn't so much that, they don't care about the position. It was more so that they moved on from Ernest Jones. And I felt like they moved on from Ernest Jones more than they moved on from the position. They gave up on the position. So I do think Devin Lloyd could be in play here. I'm not saying this is 100% a guarantee, but I think if there is a trade that is made and the Rams acquire talent. Obviously, Trey White is probably going to be traded or cut. We've seen this movie before. He's probably played his last down as a Ram. But as far as acquiring talent, this would be, my money is on Devin White. Okay, I could see an Evan Ingram, but his contract is pretty rough. Next year, that cap hit goes way up. They'd have to be playing around with that. And I don't think the Rams want a team to take on a lot of the contract, because I don't think that the Rams are trying to, trade a first rounder or second rounder or third rounder. Second rounder, of course, would be in 2026. I just don't get that vibe. I do get the vibe, however, that the Rams could be interested in maybe a round 4, pick, and maybe a player, or maybe, something of next year, in 2026. That's how I see it. So I think this Lloyd trade can absolutely happen. There were reports from of the Jaguars being interested in shopping Lloyd and Ingram, who I mentioned. I think Evan Ingram would be a good fit. It's just the money is a concern. I think the money would be also a concern with David Njoku, but the reason why that I'm not saying David Njoku here is that I think the Rams could benefit having that big play tight end, but I don't think the Rams are going to go that route. I think the Rams could benefit with the linebacker, and I feel like the Rams would be more open to going that route, because there are kind of hints out there that would lead you to believe that they kind of missed the production of Ernest Jones. So I wouldn't be surprised, if they ended up, going out and getting Lloyd. I think it would take a 4th rounder, and maybe a 4th rounder in 2026, or, maybe a Nick Hampton or somebody of value like that. Maybe you trade a Cameron Kinchins. I could see a 4th and Cameron Kinchins would get the deal done. Now, I wouldn't necessarily do that. I would probably try to stick with picks instead of players, but I could absolutely see something like that with John Johnson coming back. Where's Kinchins' role at? You have Cam Curl, you got Jalen McCullough, you got Quentin Lake. Where does Cam Kinchins fit into that? So I could see that. I could see a Nick Hampton. I could see some different things, right? I would probably go with just the picks if they made this trade. But again, I could see something along the lines of, even if the Jaguars asked for like Michael Hoyt, for instance, the Rams wouldn't do that. But I could see like Christian Roseboom. And if it was Christian Roseboom and a pick for Devin White, I could absolutely see that. And now, keep in mind, Roseboom would not be a sweetener. He'd be just a throw-in. So let me make that very clear. I'm not saying that these guys are at all the same, but I could see something like that to a degree. Now, I want to make this clear. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm saying if I had to pick one player who would be a Ram if they made a trade, I believe it's Devin Lloyd. He would be your go-to inside backer. Lake would have the green dot responsibility still, which is fine, and it makes sense because Devin Lloyd doesn't know the defense yet. He'd have to learn. But then you would have Omar Spates, then you would have Troy Reeder, and you would have Christian Roseboom, Tony Fields II, Jake Hummel. You could rotate them all based on situations, so you could have, kind of a duo there in base where you're playing defense knowing it's going to be a run, and you have your 2 best run stoppers in there in Lloyd and Spates. But then let's just say there's a package, where it's like, okay, this is going to be an obvious passing down. Well, you might take Lloyd out because he struggles in that. You might put in Jake Hummel and use another safety there. There are different things that they can do. That is why I'm actually really excited to see what Tony Fields can do if he gets an opportunity. But this is why I do feel like the Rams still need to add another guy, because I think you want to have multiple different looks. It's kind of like, a bullpen in the major leagues, how they'll have a lefty, they'll have a righty, they'll have a submarine arm, they'll have a guy that's a sinker baller, they'll have a guy that throws just straight up 101 miles per hour. Having different variations and giving you that versatility and flexibility that you have with the defense is going to go a long way. And I think this defense is already taking a huge step forward the last 2 weeks. But furthermore, with that young pass rush up front that is among the league leaders in, pass rush rate, then, now you're talking about, or pressure rate, excuse me. Now you're talking about, adding a guy like Devin Lloyd who could really help in the run game. And if you can't run against the Rams and you can't throw against the Rams, what are you going to do? And so that's the reality of it. If they go out and they get a guy like Lloyd, he's not perfect, has a glaring weakness in coverage, but he'd be making you forget about Ernest Jones pretty quickly. I'm not saying he's better than Ernest Jones, was with the Rams. I'm not saying he, would be Ernest Jones 2.0, but he would fill the void. And that void has not been filled yet, whether people want to admit it or not. You can't put Christian Roseman and Troy Reeder and expect to fill a void of a guy who was starting, borderline Pro Bowler, who was starting a guy that's played in a Super Bowl, right? I think the statement, and I'll read this to wrap it up here. Greg Beecham posted this on Twitter, so shout out to @Greg Beecham. I've been pleased with some of the things that the guys have done. It'd be hard to deny the production he's had when you look at what he's done at Tennessee and even just in the first week there last week with Seattle. He's a great player and he did a lot of good things for us. I think all the decisions that we make in the moment we feel are in the best interest. I'm not going to pretend to act like every decision is accurate and you try to be able to learn from it and apply it moving forward, but you know that you're playing against a really well-respected player. Mentally, physically tough, seems like he's always around the football, so I wish him well. It's going to be a great challenge going up against him. That was Sean McVay talking about Ernest Jones, which I think a lot of Rams fans were a little curious on why he sounded almost like regretful about that. In that quote. So the statement does make me wonder, that's really like even before this statement came out, if I had to pick any player, it'd be Devin Lloyd. I understand, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, a lot of, people want him. A lot of Rams fans want him, but you got the Browns looking decent with Jameis Winston. He just suffered an injury. It's a short turnaround time. I don't know if the Browns' first thinking after he suffered a potentially serious neck injury when he got carted off, stretchered off and everything, was in the hospital. I don't think the first thing they were thinking is let's trade him away. Not after that win either, which was impressive. So I don't think they go into full sell mode. I know they got rid of Amari Cooper, but I don't think they go into full sell mode. And because of that, I think Devin Lloyd is there for the taking. The Christian Kirk collarbone fracture, to me, was the signal that the Jaguars were done for the year, okay? They trade away Cam Robinson. You never see teams trade away offensive linemen. You almost never see that. They trade away a starting tackle. I know he was in a contract year, but they just kind of gave him away and allowed the Vikings to have some sort of starting caliber tackle taking over for for the end of the season, Christian Darrisaw. So, yeah, I think the Jaguars are going to sell. Devin Lloyd could be playing for the Ravens, the Bills. He could go to the Packers, although they did just add Jamin Davis. I could see a few teams that could be in on him, but don't be surprised if Devin Lloyd ends up with the LA Rams. I really feel like if they make a move, Devin Lloyd is the best fit available. He fits exactly what they're needing right now, and he just feels like a Ram to me. So let me know in the comment section below if you would take on Devin Lloyd. You would bring him onto the roster. Keep in mind there's a 5th-year option there and an additional year. So say what you will. Why would the Jaguars trade him? I'm not saying I would, but I am saying the Jaguars, there's already been reports that they've shown interest in shopping him. With another year and another year on top of that, with the Rams having the opportunity to take on his 5th-year option, there's a lot of good that could come out of this trade. Not just the here and now, not just on the path to win a Super Bowl, but they could have him for the long haul, and they could replace Ernest Jones in a spot where maybe they thought they were going to have to spend a lot of draft capital to do that this offseason. So we'll see what ends up happening. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Be sure to follow me on all social media at JKBogan and check out today's sponsor, BetUS. BetUS, of course, YouTube 150 is the code. Be sure to check it out, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, folks. Later. Just want to let you guys know that we are doing all 22 live breakdowns every single week, Rams football related, over on Kick exclusively. That's kick.com/JKBogan if you want to get in on the action. And if you want a little something more than just football, I also do gaming streams as well. So check that out. Link is in the description, and hope to see you there. Do you love talking about the Rams, the NFL, or just want to be a part of a community? Join my free Discord server today. We're over 800 members. We got 24/7 live chat, a level 3 boosted server, the ability to call into JE Live, playing online games with us on Kick streams, toggleable alerts for when I go live on YouTube or Kick so you don't miss a live stream, and exclusive giveaways. Click the link in the description, the comments section, or the link that comes up in the video to learn more and join today.